The Greeks may be an old and proud people, but the Greek nation is a young one, having only achieved independence from the Ottoman Turks in 1830. From the onset of independence, the borders of the Greek state were much smaller than the territory inhabited by ethnic Greeks, however, and the country would launch many irredentist campaigns to expand the state and achieve enosis, or union, with its ethnic brethren. This drew the country into the Balkan Wars and the Weltkrieg, but the expansion that the Prime Minister Venizelos hoped to achieve at the expense of Bulgaria and the Ottoman Empire did not materialize. The Entente was defeated, and the Bulgarian troops swarmed through southern Macedonia. At the Treaty of Salonika, the Bulgarians got to keep the lands that they had occupied through force of arms, and the Germans further humiliated Greece by taking the island of Crete. This was the first time that the process of Greek expansion had been halted, and the treaty itself was fatal to the liberal government that signed it, and would be fatal to the Greek monarchy as well, which had been dragged into the war despite its German sympathies. Throughout the 1920s, several governments failed to stabilize the situation until General Kondilis took control and declared himself regent. His reign of terror lasted for 5 years until a Republican coup overthrew the tyrant and set him in front of a firing squad. The Hellenic Republic was proclaimed, and so far, it has been run by the liberal coalition under President Papandreou. With the new regime established, there now must be a reckoning with the legacy of the Treaty of Salonika. While relatively mild compared to the fate Germany inflicted upon Russia, Italy, and France, the treaty has allowed German and Austrian companies to acquire almost half of Greece's nascent industry. So, calls for nationalization might further sink relation with the European hegemon. As to the Bulgarian problem, an opportunity has presented itself for an alliance with the revanchist regimes in Belgrade and Bucharest, and repeat the encirclement of the Second Balkan War. If Bulgaria is defeated, Greece can once again treat with the other nations with pride as an equal. All this will only be possible, however, if the liberal regime can unite the country under them. Memories of the monarchy among some, and several factions among the right, the military, and the old aristocracy, possibly funded by German industrialists and agents, are clamoring for the return of the king. The liberal coalition and the growing syndicalist movement will still uphold the republic, but whether this political conundrum will be solved by the ballot box, force of arms, or some sort of trickery, only time will tell. Welcome back, everyone, to another Kaiserreich Hearts of Iron 4 overview. Of course, this time it's Greece, as you probably heard and saw. So, Greece. We're going to take a look at the focus tree right now. And, well, let's start with the economy stuff. Now, the economy, it's bad because of Black Monday, and because Austrian-owned industry and German-owned industry. Anyway, so what, of course, you need to do to go down the economy line is that you need to have Black Monday happen. Then you're going to go down and fix your farming crisis, which is all about essentially how the farmers are kind of getting screwed over by the whole economic situation, and depending on how you resolve it, you are going to get different actual political, you could say, outcomes. So yeah, it does have an impact on your politics as well, which we're going to see when we get to the monarchy stuff. Then you need to think about the foreign-owned industry, where you actually have 3 options that become mild. One of those options is mildly important because you can either nationalize the German industry, you can not nationalize all of the foreign-owned industry. Actually, let's just, oh yeah, right, forgot, it's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit bugged, so I can't exactly do that. Anyway, I wanted to show it to you, but then I remembered it doesn't actually give it immediately. But yeah, essentially, or you can just leave it alone, and if you leave it alone, it's going to be bad for your government, obviously, because a lot of people are not happy about this foreign-owned industry. Anyway, they're not happy about it, but yeah, if you nationalize, or if you partially nationalize, the Germans are going to get a spirit that affects, or a kind of opinion buff or debuff that that affects. Did they sell it to the Ottomans in this playthrough? No, they still have it. Debuff that essentially affects how how they feel about you, and that's going to be important for one of the factions that you can join, of course, the Reichspakt. Then you have a few focuses. You only have one kind of option that locks you out of another one. You only have one of these. It's either privatize or nationalize companies. Privatize overall I find is better because it's going to increase your production efficiency gap, and production efficiency gap is like one of the most important economic stats. And the only problem here is that you convert military factories back into civilian ones. Now, it's a net gain because civilian factories are more expensive than military ones, but obviously you want military factories to actually produce equipment. And whereas here you just get a civilian factory, but your monarchist sympathies will be increased. Now, we're going to get to that later. This is just some building slots and some infrastructure, and this is just some research, and then you can remove away that Black Monday, which is actually needed for a few things down the line later. So in terms of the politics, we're going to take a look at first the electoral kind of stuff. In your first election, you're going to have, and actually we can go right away to the first election, you're going to have a choice between 4 options for parties and coalitions, if the game will load. Wow, how graciously slow. So, elections, where's elections? Did I not... I might not have made a save with the elections, which is actually kind of retarded, but to be honest, it's nothing that strange. It's essentially for your first election, which is in 1948, you are going to have either, the options are the Social Democrats, the People's Party, the Liberals, and the Social Liberals. Whereas in the second election, you're going to also have, depending on what options you pick, like allowing the radical socialists in the elections or not, you're also going to get the radical socialists, and I believe also the authoritarian Democrats, the neo-state, and I believe they replace the People's Party or something, and the radical socialists, I don't remember exactly who they replace, but yeah, essentially the Social Democrats go in a coalition in the second election with the Social Liberals. So I guess if you want to pick one of those, pick them right off the bat. And the Social Democrats are pretty good, and the Social Liberals also are pretty good. So yeah, you could really make an argument that those two are the best choices for the beginning, depending, of course, on what you're trying to do. And also, whatever party you pick also ties into the mechanic that you saw earlier with this one, the Monarchist Sympathies. So obviously here with the economy, your Monarchist Sympathies will be decreased if your government does something popular, whereas they will be increased if it does something very much unpopular, such as letting the foreign industries continue to be foreign owned, and nationalizing, of course, will decrease monarchist sympathies, which goes into like a hidden modifier that's going to determine how the referendum on the monarchy goes. So obviously this will happen somewhere in the 1938 region. So actually let's go check it out, because here I actually do have a save, which is always nice. So that's the referendum. And yeah, so the monarchist sympathies will be affected by some events. They will be affected by what choices you pick in your focus tree in some areas, and they will be affected by what party you pick during the election. So obviously the monarchy is supported by the more right-wing factions, and if you pick the social conservative party, that's going to increase monarchist sympathies, whereas if you pick the New Liberal coalition, the New Liberal Party, which is the Social Liberals, or the National Unity Party, I believe it's something like that. Yeah, I think it's like National Unity Party, which is the Social Democrats, you increase the Republican sympathies. And what that ends up having an effect on is the referendum on the monarchy. I'm actually going to play it out, which I don't usually do in these. But yeah, I'm going to play it out because once you take the focus and you start taking it, it's going to essentially start to fire off progressively events that are going to give you either a pro-Republican or pro-monarchist outcome, likely, because it can actually go against you. Can actually very much go against you. So depending on what you want to go, so like for example over here I am the Social Democrats, so you know, kind of role-playing, I would want the Republicans to win, but maybe I would want to be kind of liberal about it. If I want to be kind of liberal about it, it's going to be just a kind of 50-50 kind of thing, because if you get these events, like for example here, monarchists in the streets, so the monarchists are, you know, increasing their presence among the population. They're trying to get people to vote for the monarchy. So you can either say we're going to allow them to distribute their pamphlets, which is going to increase the monarchist sympathies, or we can say we must suppress this nonsense. Now, this also has another consequence, not just in terms of the monarchist sympathies or the Republican sympathies. If you intervene heavily on one side or the other, but if you start to intervene in the referendum events, you're going to get a choice. So, like, for example, if we're just going to let them do whatever, you're going to get a choice to then rig the referendum. And the chance that you get discovered rigging this referendum goes up according to a few modifiers that you're going to get by clicking on one option or the other in the events. And if you're discovered, that is how you access. So, like, for example, no, we should not get involved. They're just going to be liberal right now. We're just going to let them do whatever. And if you get discovered rigging the referendum in one way or the other, that's how you're going to get access to this sort of bottom right side of the focus tree with both the syndicalist and the autocratic lines. But we're going to take a look at that later. First off, we're going to finish our own custom ultra-liberal referendum. So aristocratic lobbying, I guess we'll allow it. So actually, because we allowed it, maybe we're going to get the option to rig it in favor of the monarchy. Because yes, you... so like the event that you get at the end of this focus tree actually is 100% based upon the choices that you make while you are getting these events fired at you. So this is kind of interesting, because depending on who have you decided to support or not support, you're gonna get different options for the rigging, and you're gonna get different chances that that rigging is gonna be discovered. However, it is very generally very likely that the rigging is discovered if you rig it. And if you don't rig it, then there's still a chance that the side that you do not want will win the referendum. So it's actually kind of difficult if you just want to play Republican or monarchist, because there's a pretty high chance that you're going to get fucked. However, even if, and you're going to see that, even if you decide to... Oh, and by the way, you saw that monarchist riot event. If you had been supporting the monarchy throughout the earlier events, you would have actually gotten a syndicalist riot, or Republican, sorry, riot. So it's actually kind of dynamic there as well. Anyway, even if you... So yeah, the monarchists are for the advantage. So because of what we ended up doing, we can either... we can do both, essentially. So we can either rig to ensure that the monarchy is going to win, or we can rig to make sure the Republic is going to win, because right now the monarchists have the advantage because we picked more things that are going to give advantage to the monarchists, and because of our previous situation. Now, by default, the monarchists have a pretty good advantage, I feel like, but you know, that's just from what I've played. It's kind of just anecdotal. So let's just say we do nothing and accept the legitimate results. It's going to take a few more days to finish the focus, obviously. So we're going to see what is given to us. And it can be either the monarchy or the republic. Like, I had a game where I was just very, very much pro-republican. I had picked everything for the republic. You know, I was getting events, you know, the Republicans are almost sure to win or something, and then I got the monarchy. So, yeah, it's not... Yeah, for example, like right now, the monarchists were winning, but we got a Republican victory. So you can just take... Then you can just take Republican victory, and you can go down the Republican line, which is going to be all about regaining some of that stability that you lost. Alternatively, if you get the monarchist victory, you can go down the monarchist line, and there you can either go with King Alexander, and he's more liberal generally, kind of a figurehead, constitutional kind of king, and he gets the options, you know, to have an empowered parliament or a strong executive, just like the Republicans. Or you could empower the throne and get the authoritarian Democrats in charge, which perhaps that's how you get this. That's interesting. And then you get a divine mediator. You can also get a divine mediator by going down King Georgios, and he's the more paternal autocrat, kind of absolute monarchy kind of guy. And if you have the monarchy, that is also how you can join the Reichspakt, I believe. Wait, hold on, no. Yeah, that's the thing I've got already, kind of. Oh, no, yeah, you need to be paternal autocrat to. Yeah, you need to be paternal autocrat if you want to join the Reichspakt, but you also need to not have nationalized the German investments. So be kind of careful. If you're going to want to join the Germans, don't nationalize their industry, even partially, because as you can see right now, I only partially seized the German-owned industry, and yet they still have the nationalized our investments -50. It would be -100 if I had done it fully, but it doesn't matter. It's only, you know, it's only the opinion there. It still prevented me from joining the Reichspakt, which is kind of annoying. And of course, you need to not be in a faction, which is why you have that convenient leave the Balkan Pact. But we're gonna, you know, talk about that in the diplomacy line a little bit further. If you're a monarchy, you can also join the Entente, because obviously they had, like, the Entente is kind of like the monarchy club, obviously, of KR, the bad monarchy club. And yeah, this is kind of rejoin, because obviously, you know, you can do that. And then there's a lot of other ways in which you can join the Entente, whereas for the Germans, you need to be... oh, okay. You can also just have bailed out the German industry. Interesting. And or you could also have your own enemies at war with Germany. Oh, okay, okay, okay. So there's actually a lot of different ways in which you can join the Reichspakt, which is good. That's going to increase the amount of times you're going to see that. So anyway, you purge the Republicans, blah, blah, blah. So that's for King George. And then you have the coups. Now, the coups happen when you rig the referendum. So let's see what happens with rigging number 1. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, obviously, you know, you're rigging things, but there's 2 coups over there, you know? Why are there 2, or rather 2 coups, 2 focus trees? You know, there's one for the Sunnis and one for the autocrats. So, yeah, essentially, what you end up doing is that if you rig in favor of the Republicans, like we have done in this save, you're going to get the Metaxas coup. So Metaxas is obviously the kind of semi-fascist dictator that Greece had in our timeline. And yeah, he can coup as an anti-Republican, and then he gets autocratic Greece. Now, to be honest, I have no idea how to get the national populist Greece. I only know that he, you know, goes paternal autocrat, and actually, with him, you can also pass the check to join the Reichspakt, because he's also paternal autocrat. And in there, you can either restore the monarchy fully, and you're gonna get King Paul, which is kind of weird because the youngest of the free princes. Oh, okay. So I guess that's a third option for a king. Anyway, and so he becomes the king and removes the memories of the king. If you do not do that, the memories of the king just kind of stay there. Because, you know, this guy is supposed to be kind of pro-monarchy, so if he does not restore the monarchy, people aren't happy. But anyway, if you can consolidate the rule, that's going to be better for your military factories, which is never a bad thing. And then in the end, you know, either Iron Fist or Velvet Glove, which is kind of nice. So obviously everyone here gets a research slot, so that's nothing new. Lots of stability around there, you know, kind of trying to stabilize the country or whatever. Remove the anarchist elements. Anyway, so that's the autocratic Greece. Whereas, and also I believe that gives you... Does that give you a general? No. Well, yeah, it does. This guy, I think. Anyway, he's kind of a derp. And, yeah, you start off with some pretty bad popularity, which is not good. Or we could go ahead and rig it in favor of the monarchy. And guess who's, you know, very much anti-monarchy and ready to take over the country by force? It is the Sindhis, as you know, probably already expected. So the Sindhis can get into power by essentially taking advantage of the fact that maybe someone was trying to put the king back in there, you know, these traitorous Sogdems. So the syndicalist coup. Syndicalist coup gets you a nice syndicalist government with a very bad flag under Nikos Zachariadis. However, for you with the Sindhis, it's a lot easier actually to, because you know, over here it's kind of like a it just gives you paternal autocrats, whereas here you can either have syndicalists or totalists, and you choose that by going down the First Hellenic Congress. So here's the First Hellenic Congress, and in here you can either choose just to stay with the Sindhis or switch around to the totalists. And if you go with the totalists, you get a very interesting person as your leader with a big ass beard, and yeah, he's actually very good as a prime minister as well, because look at that, minus 12% training time, division recovery, and political power. That's not bad. Anyway, as the totalists, you get some very nice events, and then, you know, as the regular syndicalists, you're more economically focused. But in the end, you can pick, you know, either the economy or on our strength, whatever you pick, really. You can pick the economy as the totalists or the military as the syndicalists, and then you're gonna get some stability back. And actually, the research focus, it's called the Great Leap Forward. Now, they're not as like the syndicalists and the autocrats, you know, the non-democrats are not as powerful as the Democrats, because the Democrats get to keep their spirits and bonuses from one election to the next. Now, they only get 2 elections, so they can only go down 2 lines, but still, it's pretty good. Like, they get a few more focuses in the end. But still, I guess you could say that the radical ideologies have a little bit of an easier time, especially if you go totalist, because you can, like, you know, actually justify war goals, which you do not always need to justify war goals, because occupy Bulgaria. Because Greece has some very nice options to expand and to make some foreign policy. Now, the army stuff is actually very powerful. You get some research bonuses as always, but a lot of doctrine bonuses, and especially with both Grand Battle Plan and Superior Firepower, you get a unit, a free unit. So with the Mountaineers, you get a Mountaineer unit. With the Marines, you get a Marine unit. So obviously, if you're going Superior Firepower, you're going to get a free Marine, which is good. If you're going Grand Battle Plan, you're going to get a free Mountaineer, which is even better. But in the end, you do get the awesome modification on the Legacy of Alexander, which is already awesome. You know, more attack on core territory and more population. That's good. And then, in the end, that's actually... This focus is one of the reasons why I think Grand Battle Plan is a little bit better, because look at that extra max planning, you know? Max planning is always good. And what's also very, very important down here is that you get a lot of free military factories, but with the Pirkal deal, you can also get a free company over here, Greek Powder and Cartridge Company. So yeah, lots of free stuff by going down the military line. Then the airline is, you know, kind of normal. You got a aviation industry thing, but I doubt you'll ever actually have fighters. With the ships, it's actually also kind of useful, because if you go down here to begin naval program, you get some good options. So if we go ahead and check that out, that's, of course, if you go with ambitious navy, which already gives you some extra dockyards, which is good. The naval program, in the end, gives you, you know, some very, very bad. Actually, damn. What? There we are. Wait, what? Oh, not suffering from any effects of Black Monday, of course. So we need to get rid of Black Monday. Gotta be a dirty cheater. And, actually, is there anything else we want to do right now here? Well, maybe. I do want to unlock that before I do anything else. And that's also very, very strong, because it gives you, again, gives you a free company. So the Royal Hellenic Naval Shipyard should probably be renamed. I wish that you could rename. You can remove it for a cost of 0 political power. I actually didn't know that you could do that. Wish you could rename these, so, you know, it makes more sense. But and then you get this last nice spirit, which is actually kind of nice. It's a Themistocles quote, you know, the famous naval kind of strategist of the Athenians. Megatotis thalasis kratos. So great is he who has commanded the sea. So obviously, you know, thalassocracy is going to be enforced in the Aegean, and you know, that's pretty good. But yeah, the shipbuilding program, unfortunately, it's going to take 100 days. So wonder if it's a good idea to just play for a while. Well, yeah, it is, because that actually allows me to show you the right side of the options. So you may see that there's a March for Megali thing here, but we're just gonna click that. We're just gonna click that, and why do I not have generals? Oh, look, French Republic. Anyway, what's also kind of nice about going with the total list is that your leader is a field marshal, so he gets stuck in there, and you know, he's one of those not taking shit from anyone kind of leaders, which is good. Always good to have those. And yeah, so essentially they're what you you can void debts, because, you know, you're Greece, obviously. So essentially for the right side of the tree, it's essentially the early parts are about getting some early game. Wait, what? Oh yeah, right, there's also this one. So if you are the Hellenic Socialist Republic, you actually get a civil war, because Metaxas is going to try to be kind of a dick, and that's actually not good, because you lose a lot of units. And, you know, Greece does not have a lot of units to both start with and at the end. You know, you do not have that much recruitable pop, so you don't really have, like, the biggest army ever. Anyway, now we're gonna make sure that they can't really cause too much of a problem. Yeah, just take that capital. Make them pay for what they've done. No, don't let them take my cities. There we are. So that's the end of the ridiculous revolt. Anyway, so going down the right side, the early parts are about your early game, just getting a little bit better, and you get a free. What's kind of funny is that since I own Macedonia already, I would declare war on myself because I'm owning Macedonia. But yeah, normally this would be declares war on Bulgaria. And then you can either choose the diplomatic path or the expansionist path. The expansionist path gives you claims on Albania, which is often pretty bad because they joined the Austrian faction. But for example, right now they did not, which means that we can get a free, relatively free, war justification on them. And then you can you can take the resurrecting Megali. So obviously the Megali idea to make Greece great again. You get a lot of claims on the Ottomans. And you get these decisions, these nice decisions, whenever you take an area that you do not have at the start. So like right now at the start, the borders would be, if you remember, at southern Macedonia here and at Salonika. Then they move up. So obviously when you defeat Bulgaria, you take Western Macedonia, Eastern Macedonia, and Thrace, and you do not actually have cores on them from the start, but you can get cores on them. So for example, with this regaining Greece bracket, for example, if I were to want to have a core in Eastern Macedonia here, which I right now do not, it's a colony state, I'll just need to click Restore Order in Eastern Macedonia, and after 120 days, that's gonna give me a core. Also, when you're, of course, the Syndicalist, you can join the International, which is not bad. And yeah, there we are. Now we're a part of the Third International, and we can pretty much destroy the Ottomans really easily, because guess what? Taking the Resurrecting Megali idea gives you the March for Megali decision, which is gonna make you be at war with the Turks, which is not a bad thing, you know? Not a bad thing to be at war with the Turks, especially when oftentimes you're gonna be ready to do that at a rough time when they're already fighting their eastern conflict. So obviously that's not very good for them now, is it? And if you've gotten your army, you know, a little bit of experience fighting Bulgaria and possibly someone else, it's gonna be pretty easy for you to actually defeat the Turks. So that's quite good for you. And of course, if you are in a very strong faction, that's even better. Or you could have, you know, if you weren't the Syndicalists, and yeah, if you weren't the Syndicalists, you could have, I guess, just kept the Belgrade Pact, which is often enough just kind of good enough. And there we are. So you get the declaration of war on the Ottoman Empire. You can obviously call in all your strong allies and destroy the Ottomans. Now I'll just be waiting for my naval program to end so that I can show you what that does. Actually, yeah, do that. No, I will not take an aggression pact with you, evil Egyptians. And yeah, the war with the Ottomans is really, really easy because, again, you're probably not going to be facing most of their troops. And, yeah, you can just kind of derp into their territory. No, Yemen, I will not take an aggression pact. You can pretty much just kind of derp into most of their territory. And after you have taken more than 50% of their surrender progress, and you have all of the states that you claim, which actually also requires Crete, that's not very good, because Crete is usually difficult to have. So I wonder if I can just sneak into there. I'll just have that be a thing. Come on, International. Yeah, as you can see, they start to flood in with their troops, and after that, it's really easy. So yeah, after you have all of those things, so you know, all the non-island non-island, okay. All the non-island claim states in the Ottoman Empire are controlled by us or an ally. So it would be Prusa up here, Izmir, and yeah, okay, actually that's one big state. And yeah, that's those two. So once we have those two, and then the Ottomans are over 50% surrender progress. So like, for example, we're going to go to Adana. Then we're going to surround all their troops. Oh, well, I guess you're just kind of a dick. You actually get an option to piece them out like that. And they did, because they were just a little bit scared, you know? So they just gave us their capital, you know? Because why the hell not? And they gave us the eastern, you know, seaboard of the Aegean. They gave us the Aegean Islands. They gave us Rhodes, and they gave us Cyprus. So the only thing that it's left to take is Crete, for this playthrough at least, is Crete and Albania here, southern Albania. So of course, after you take Constantinople, you can move your capital to Constantinople, which is kind of derpy because at the beginning it's not your core state, but you can restore order in Constantinople after you have restored order in Eastern Thrace, And I believe also you need to have restored... No. You don't even need Eastern Thrace. You just need Anatolia. Anatolia? No, sorry. Thrace. So after you've restored order to Thrace, you can, you know, take down those Turks in Constantinople and make them Greeks again somehow. And yeah, so that's one thing that you can do. And oh, we need more manpower than 5,000 to get new ships. Well, obviously, let's get manpower. Let's get manpower so that you can see what happens there. And one other advantage of being the totalist, says Greece, is that when you take out Albania, you can take, you know, southern Albania, which is North Cyprus in Greek. You can take North Cyprus. No, not North Cyprus, North Epirus. So you can take North Epirus in the annexation, and then you liberate the rest, and the leader here is going to be Bunkerman Hoxha, so yeah, even better. So you can have memes. Anyway, so that's that, and I would really like to have manpower. So yeah, deploy new ships. We have brand new ships waiting to be deployed. Oh, wow. So you do get some ships. Wow. Got a cruiser, got a lot of destroyers, and a lot of submarines. Okay, that's pretty useful. Is there anything else that we need to talk about? Right, the diplomatic path. So let's go take a look at the diplomatic path. Now, I don't like the diplomatic path because it's bad. Now, that may sound kind of, you know, harsh, but it is kind of bad because, believe me, it just doesn't work. At least some of it doesn't work. So the whole premise of the diplomatic path is that the main reason why we want all those territories is that we want the Greeks in them, not really the territories themselves, which is, well, I mean, kind of true. So we can get the Greeks and security for Greece without having to go to war. So first off, you need to take Vulcan Cooperation, and you get some decisions to improve Vulcan Cooperation. The problem is this does not work. So like, for example, right now, Serbia has a 200 opinion of us, right? That's also, just to be sure, they're going to be liking us. Let's just even give them the state that they claim. So here you go. You have Macedonia now. You have your claimed part of Macedonia. If we were to, all right, I need political power first. So if we were to take the Balkan Cooperation, I need to not suffer from the events of Black Monday. Well, obviously. Always need to not suffer from Black Monday. There we are. So, yeah. Now we can take the decision, prove Balkan Cooperation with Serbia. Let's see. Will that work? Last time I had a very, very high relations with Serbia, but they did... Oh, this time they agreed. Well, good. What does it do? Gives political power and opinion of them. Great, we already had 200 opinion of them. You know, what does that even do? It's like pretty useless, you know? It's not gonna prevent anyone from declaring war on me or something. Anyway, you can do that with Serbia, you can do that with Bulgaria, you can do that with Albania, and you can do that with Romania. But again, it's like, you know, if they want to declare war on me, they're gonna do that. And it's, more importantly, it's like not gonna really help us out in the long term, because it's like, yeah, we got a little bit of extra relations with them. What's that gonna do? You know, this isn't normal Hearts of Iron. You cannot add them to your faction. You cannot do a lot of regular diplomacy that you'd be doing normally. This is Kaiserreich. So generally, if a country is gonna be friendly to you, you know, they're gonna pick those events that make them friendly to you, and that's gonna be good. Anyway, yeah, the other one, the other part is, well, you get an economic bonus down here, expand into new markets, which is always nice. The other one is Turkish Fall. Now, Turkish Fall is the more interesting one of the two, because here You get the Ottomans. Right, they need to first welcome diplomatic overtures. Wonder if they're gonna do that. Because of course they get an event, and if they welcome it, that's good. Okay, they agreed. So this is about a agreement that was done historically, actually, between Greece and Turkey, and of course I got a screenshot by mistake, which is about a population transfer and a transfer of some, you know, some border disputes between the two nations. So cooperation with the Turks. Let's see if they accept. I've actually never been able to take this one because whenever I went down this line, the Ottomans were at war, and this actually has a prerequisite that the Ottomans need to not be at war, and they need to not be, I don't know, like Turkey needs to not be NatPop, I think, or something. Anyway, there was a few requirements, and I never had the requirements. Oh, they refused. Well, that's fucking annoying. Anyway, if they did agree, there would be, like, you know, some population removed from Constantinople and sent to Athens or something, you know? You would get manpower, and then I believe you would also, like, the Greeks would get the Aegean Islands, but they would give up cores on, or cores, they would not try to, you know, take Cyprus or something. I don't know exactly how it goes, because again, I haven't been able to actually take it yet, and now they refused. So I don't know, maybe if your army is stronger, they're gonna have a higher chance of accepting. But yeah, that's about it. That's about it for the focus stream. So yeah, join me later join me later, that's ridiculous. You're gonna see the video switch and you're gonna hear my thoughts on the whole thing. So I feel like for Greece as a whole, it's kind of interesting because they have a lot of mechanics that other nations and just Hearts of Iron in general do not really use all that much, but that are used very well, such as, of course, those kind of very, very impactful events, such as the impactful decisions, such as the different options that you can take to grow kind of your country and what you're doing with it. And that's kind of like the bigger strength. Another big strength is about how the political stuff works, which is pretty smooth and pretty great. And then another strength is the fact that your troops generally are quite good, but you don't have like the biggest, strongest military ever, and yet you have to face some pretty tough enemies. However, you can use diplomacy to take these guys down, because you have a lot of different options for allies at different parts of the game. So obviously at the beginning you have the Belgrade Pact, which everyone is going to do. But then even later, if you are faced with an enemy of my enemy kind of situation, you can join the Reichspakt, you can join the Entente, or you can just kind of go Cindy and join the International and use that alliance to your kind of advantage. And so that's kind of the good thing. And the other good thing about Greece is that the starting position, obviously you're in the Balkans, so a lot of things are going to happen very quickly. They're going to be explosive and very, very interesting. The kind of downsides, I would say that the economy stuff is not that interesting. You know, you're not really doing anything that strange to develop Greece. Doesn't really feel like you're switching from a very agrarian society to an industrial one, you know, just like Albania. And you're not even really faced with like dilemmas as to how to grow, although obviously you do have either privatized or nationalized industry, but it's like, because it's very much integrated into the political stuff. Like if you go look at the bonuses and what the focus is for the democratic parties are mostly about, it's mostly about economy, so that's why. And yeah, that's basically about it. So yeah, that's basically my overall kind of conclusion on Greece. Very interesting country. It's got a very kind of fleshed out political and diplomatic tree, which is exactly what you would want to see in the Balkans. And it's got some unique, cool mechanics that you can play with. So definitely very much worth playing. And yeah, I hope you will do. I hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you soon.